Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. We're in John chapter 2 right now. We're looking at the second half of John chapter 2. Remember, last week in John chapter 1, we saw his first recorded miracle. And we saw how he took water, one substance, and changed it into another substance, wine. And I also showed you that it wasn't so much the miracle that we should be concentrating on. It's what the miracle represents. And it represents Jesus converting you. And when you put your trust in him and you accept God's gift of salvation for you, Jesus changes you. He changes you from being a sinner to being a saint, to being somebody who is saved and ready for heaven. So now what we're going to see is God's perfect plan for you, and how the Apostle John shows us that in this next episode that there is a second step towards salvation that Jesus performs in you. And we're going to call this one a cleansing. So let me read John chapter 2 verses 13 to 25. I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them and I'm going to break them down as we go. So here we go. I'm going to read John chapter 2 verses 13 to 25, and right now I'm going to read verses 13 to 17 first. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." So here we see Jesus is going up to Jerusalem for the Passover. And they're stopping at the temple. And what he's seeing here is he's seeing a lot of things going on that shouldn't be going on in temple or church. They've changed the temple into a flea market. And Jesus doesn't like that. And he has every right not to like that, because he even says so. You're not going to take my Father's house and make it a flea market, is basically what he's saying. And he's angry. And he has every right to be angry because it's his Father's house. And he has a zeal for the temple. He has a reverence for where we should be worshiping God. And he cleans the temple. So what we have here is that Jesus is now doing a cleansing action. And I'm going to tie this all up for us at the end. Now verses 18 to 22. The Jews then responded to him, "What sign can you show us to prove your authority to do all this?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." They replied, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you are going to raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he was spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he said. Then they believed the scriptures and the words that Jesus had spoken. So what Jesus is here, you just picture it here, he's throwing everybody out of the temple, he's angry, and he's telling them that you're not going to do this to my Father's house. So the people there, the Jewish leaders, they say, "Hey, whose authority do you have that you can do all this?" And Jesus looks at the temple, he says, he looks at the temple and he points to himself, he goes, "You destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'm going to raise it up again." When he said that, he is saying that he is God, because only God can raise people from the dead. And Jesus right there is speaking to the Jewish leaders saying, "I can do this. I'm going to do it. That's my authority." Now we're going to look at Jesus' commitment. And this is verses 23 to 25. Now while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover festival, many people saw the signs he was performing and believed in his name. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all people. He did not need any testimony about mankind, for he knew what was in each person. So we have Jesus' commitment here. So what happens is he goes into the temple, and he sees what's going on. He sees that it's become a flea market, that it is not the worship place of God anymore, and he's angry. So he cleans the temple. Then he pushes his authority. He says, "Listen, I'm going to raise this body up in 3 days if you kill it. So I am God, and I can do this. And then he looks at the people and says, you know what? Here's the thing. You believe me because of the signs you're seeing, but you're not believing me for who I am. And Jesus is looking at them saying, that's not enough. He goes, it's not enough just to believe in me. He goes, I want you to trust me. I want you to put all of your faith into me on who I am, that I am God. Anything short of that, and it's not enough. So what Jesus has done here in these two passages is that, and let's put it for your own for your own personal life. What he's doing for you here is he is presenting himself to you so that you would believe in him and you would trust him for your salvation and you would trust him for everything in your life. And when you do, that's the conversion. You have gone from being one person, a sinner, to being a saved person, ready for heaven. Then what Jesus does is, because he has the authority, because he created you. Remember, we learned that in Hebrews. He created all things. And I've been saying this over and over again, that Jesus created you, God created you, so he can do whatever he wants with you. That's the reality. So what he's saying here is that once you have been converted, then he's going to clean you up. He's going to take all of the junk that's in your life, no matter what it is, and he's going to get rid of it. But he's only going to get rid of it if you commit to him. That's what it is. So you have the conversion, you have the cleansing, you have his authority to do these things, and then you have his commitment. You commit to him, he will commit to you. And when he does, when you have given yourself to him to let him have complete rule over you, and he starts to work in your life, you're going to notice a change in you, and others are going to notice a change in you. It's going to happen because at that point you become different. So what I really hope is that, like John says towards the end of this book, that these events are written so that you will believe that Jesus is the Messiah, and that believing in him you will have life, and that life is here now. Prior to you going to heaven, you can enjoy all the blessings that God has for you. My prayer is that you will come to know him through these messages, and that you will put your trust and your faith in him. Have a great week. Next week, we're going to get into John chapter 3. And it's going to include probably the most famous verse in the entire Bible. I'm hoping you've heard it before, but we're going to look into John chapter 3. We'll probably spend a couple weeks in just a few verses. All right? Have a great week.